Hey everyone, it's Kalen with Kite, the AI autocomplete for Python that helps you code faster and smarter. Today, I'll be showing you web scraping using Scrapy, a popular framework for extracting data from websites. Web scraping is basically pulling data from websites for use in an outside application. And so we're going to use this when a website lacks a dedicated API for pulling the data. We'll write a program instead to extract that information we normally see when visiting the web page. To learn how this works, we're going to use Scrapy to scrape all the top voted images on the cats subreddit, because why not? Cats are great. In this video, I'll be using Visual Studio Code with Kite, which will allow us to write code faster with intelligent code completion. We will also be using the Kite Copilot, which will display the documentation for the Scrapy library as we code. I would highly recommend downloading Kite, especially if you are new to Python or Scrapy. I'll leave a link in the description below. Before we dive into the setup and deployment of Scrapy, we first have to go over a few important concepts that Scrapy uses to extract information from web pages. The first concept we need to know is spiders. Spiders define how a site should be scraped for information. They let us determine what information we wish to pull from a website. Within the context of Python, spiders are classes where we will put all of our logic to extract the data. Here you can see we have an example spider class to crawl news websites called newsspider. The next important concept is selectors. These are mechanisms for selecting data within a page's underlying HTML. There are things such as p tags, divs, headers, or href links, and you'll find these in HTML. Below you can see that we have three selectors defined. First for links, or a tags, with the href field defined, then for divs, and then for paragraphs. Finally, we have items. In this context, items are the data extracted from the selectors. Scrapy provides an item class that defines how our scraped data should be structured and what fields it should have. Here we have an example item class called article. It defines a headline field to structure our result. Now that we have covered these important concepts, we can start using Scrapy. First, ensure both Python 3 and pip are installed. Next, open up a new command window and navigate to our workspace directory and issue the command pip install Scrapy. This collects the package and installs it on the machine for us. Now, when we open a Python shell in our terminal, we can import the Scrapy library using the syntax import Scrapy. With the module installed, let's begin a new Scrapy project. Close the Python shell, then we'll navigate to the directory we want to store our Scrapy project. I'm going to be working in my workspace directory, so I'll enter that directory and issue the command Scrapy start project name with whatever project name we'd like to call it. In this example, our project name is Reddit, so we'll type Scrapy start project Reddit. This command generates a new folder containing multiple Python files we'll be using in our Scrapy project. Notice the Python files named spiders and items. These are Python's implementation of the concepts we discussed earlier, and they will be very important for our web scraping. Additionally, we have a folder named spiders where we will be storing our custom spiders to scrape the information we want on websites. Now suppose we wanted to create a web scraper that can pull only images from a website, say Reddit for example. We can use Scrapy to create a Reddit spider that will fetch each image from the subreddit and put them in an HTML page of our own. So we have to create a new spider in our spiders directory. Let's call ours redditspider.py. First, import Scrapy, then create a class. Let's call ours Reddit Spider. For the argument of the class, we must pass in a scrapy.spider object, as our new spider must inherit from the base spider class. Within our class, we now have to name our spider. Later, when we run our final Scrapy project, we'll call the spider using this name. For simplicity's sake, let's just call our spider Reddit. Now we must define the URLs to scrape. This is handled in the start_URLs list. Since we are just looking at the front page of the subreddit, that will be the only URL in our list. So now we've specified what websites we are scraping, it's time to define the logic of our data extraction. We'll need to create an expression that will tell the Reddit spider whether or not it has found an image. First, it's always wise to take a look at the robots.txt file on the website. Robots.txt defines the limitations for web scraping on the site. You'll notice that bots are prohibited from crawling comment pages on Reddit here. Let's look at Reddit to find out where the image URL is. We can find the image URL is located next to the post title. So let's update Reddit Spider to include a parser to grab this URL. The external URL is simply a link on the page, so we can then loop through the links on the entire page and find the URLs corresponding to images. Let's create a function called parse where we will perform this action. Pass two arguments to the function, self and response. These correspond to the spider object and the response respectively. If we pull up the website we are scraping and inspect the underlying HTML with the inspect element option, we can see how all the images we are pulling are represented. In our example, we will be pulling thumbnails on the front page of the cat subreddit. So let's inspect some of these images. By inspecting a single element, its location in the page's source code will be highlighted on the terminal below. The images are located within an img tag and given a source as the link to an image file. This is what we will pull from Scrapy. If we can search through all the elements in a web page, we can pull the images by specifying the extension type, in this case .png, .jpg, or .gif. Now that we know what we are looking for, let's return to our spider file. We're now going to write the logic necessary to search through the web page and pull our image files. Within parse, we now need somewhere to store the links to the images. Here's where selectors come into play. Create a new variable links. This call grabs the href or link attributes from the page using an XPath selector. The result of this call will be a list of links on the page, one that we can then parse through. In order to build our new HTML page, we need to build the page incrementally as we encounter more images. To do this, we can build the HTML as a string and then use string comprehension to append HTML to the string. First, we need to instantiate our HTML by creating a new variable HTML and setting it to the empty string. On the following line, iterate through the links returned in the previous step by using the syntax for link in links. To actually access the text information from the link, we must get the string representation of the URL. Let's now create a variable URL and use scrapy.get function, which will return the URL as a string. Now that we have the URL as a string, we can check whether or not the URL contains an image. We do this by comparing the extension in the string against the extensions of commonly used image types, particularly .gif, .jpg, and .png. Test the string using the following conditional any statement. This will return true if the extension matches any of the ones in the list. Now we can begin building our HTML page. Within our conditional statement, append a multi-line string containing an anchor tag and an image within it. We will be setting the arguments of all parameters to curly braces for string formatting. String formatting allows us to plug different values into these fields and build the HTML string dynamically. With our HTML string outlined, call format on the multi-line string. Then provide the argument URL from our link. Next, we'll define the HTML file we are saving our output to. Using an open statement, we can open an existing file, or we can create a new one to save our output. Since we wish to manipulate this file, we will use a with statement to perform a write operation on the file. Using the syntax with open, now for file name, we'll put frontpage.html, and for mode, we'll put an A. This enables us to append new data to a file named frontpage.html and manipulate it as a variable called page. Within the with statement, call page.writeHTML to write the HTML string built from within our loop. Finally, close the file to properly commit the changes made to frontpage.html. Do so by calling page.close within the with statement. Okay, this should be all the code we need to scrape the front page of Reddit. Let's try it out. I'm going to navigate to the project's main directory in my console, and then I'll issue the command scrapy crawl name with name as the string created in the first line of the Reddit spider class, which in this case is Reddit. So we now call the command scrapy crawl Reddit, which will call the Reddit spider class. We will now see some output followed by a finished message indicating the operation has been completed. Looking in the current directory, we can see that a new file called frontpage.html has been created. Looking inside this file, we can now see all the images saved from the front page of the cat subreddit. Alright, we can now successfully pull images from a specific web page using Scrapy. Nice work. This is a fun way to get started with web scraping, and we can easily port the code written here to work with different websites and different objects. All we need to do is change the start URLs at the beginning of the spider class and tweak the conditions within the loop. You know, Reddit is a pretty simple website with a lot of interesting content that changes all the time. This makes Reddit a great place to practice web scraping on. Next, you could try modifying the spider to scrape all the posts with over 100 upvotes, or try scraping a different subreddit, like all the Baby Yoda pictures on the Star Wars subreddit. We also need to talk about the fact that there are many other great libraries for web scraping. Beautiful Soup comes immediately to mind as one that you should definitely check out if you're interested in using web scraping regularly. Finally, Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're posting more tutorials, more project deep dives, and other content to help you expand your programming skills and knowledge. Don't forget, check out Kite's AI autocomplete plugin. It's free and the link's in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.